like she was starting with Michelle was still. She's still
Great, good evening. I will call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Upon request to the superintendent, the district shall make reasonable accommodation for a person with disabilities to be able to participate in this meeting. And we just ask the audience to please silence their cell phones. Hope, would you like to do the roll call?
Mr. Labrie.
Here.
Mr. Arnold.
Present.
Mr. Ridley here. Ms. Greatorex.
Present.
Ms. Kangas here. Mr. Lundy.
Here.
Guerra. Here. Mr. Neighbor. So.
The next thing on the agenda is the meeting, approving the meeting minutes.
I move that the Board of Education approve the meeting minutes from 11/7/22 as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda, sorry, the meeting minutes from November 7th, 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. It passes. Next up is the approval of the agenda. Board policy provides that the superintendent of schools shall prepare an agenda for all board meetings as directed by the president of the Board of Education. This evening's agenda has been adjusted. Discussion items will come before action items so that teachers presenting the course proposal don't have to stay too late.
I move that the Board of Education approves the agenda as adjusted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Could we add, I'm sorry, it's not the suggestion, but the items discussion items. Real happy. Okay.
We can do that next time. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the adjusted, it is because we adjusted the action items that are, yes, not amended, adjusted. Agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay. We'll move on to our school presentations. Our financial audit presentation, Kim Lindsay of Raymond Robeson will present the results of the 2021-2022 financial audit. Copies of the audit report have been emailed to the board members as soon as they were available and receipts have been shared with us.
I don't need it.
You just have to slide right.
Oh, no. Anyway, good evening, board. Met with the finance committee before this meeting to go through the 100-page audit report in a little more detail than we'll go through tonight. I have put together just a dozen slides or so for you to look at with me as we talk about the results of the 2021 audit. Happy to report that it was a very good audit, clean audit. I want to thank Sharon, Dr. Rasky and her team for all their hard work getting ready for the audit, which is an undertaking. So tonight I just want to run through a few slides, tell you how things went, and give you some updates as far as where we're at. I think this is. The slides that I printed for you are last year's slides. So we'll just use some information from the audit itself. Just a few things. As I said, the audit was a clean audit opinion. This year we audited the ESSER funds as far as your federal required audit. That was about 2/3 of all the dollars received for for your grants this year. Those are, of course, audited with the requirements of the grant guidance itself. So we had an opinion related to compliance and also related to controls. And I'm happy to say there were no items to report there as well. I'll take just a couple of seconds and walk through some of the information related to the government as a whole. So we have two financial statements in the front of the report that talk about the district as a whole under the full accrual method of accounting. So you have fixed assets and debt in there, which you don't normally see in your fund level accounting. So like when you buy a bus for the district-wide presentation, it's an asset, and for the fund level statements, it's an expenditure. So just one of those interesting conventions for governmental account. Overall, a net position for the district at the end of the year does show a deficit of about $37 million. That's a deficit on the full accrual method. That's caused by the liabilities we show for the pension and OPEB systems with the state of Michigan. So those numbers cause that deficit. Those numbers are significant. $63.5 million for the pension and $4.1 million for the OPEB. Those numbers are actually down significantly from last year because the pension plan is valued on the state's fiscal year end. So it was valued as of September 30th of 2021. And at that time, the stock market was going crazy good. So the investment return was north of 27% in both of those areas of the pension and OPEB plans. This year, of course, we're on the opposite end of the spectrum. So when we look at this report next year, we'll probably see those pension and liability numbers go right back up to the report. But overall revenues for the year on that full accrual method, just over $69.5 million as compared to $62 million last year. Difference being those federal funds infusion. Total expenses of about $57.8 million as compared to $62.3 million last year. Why did expenses go down? Mainly because of the valuation of pensions as far as the liability falling. So that information runs through the income statements. That's why those numbers are down. Looking at the fund level stuff, just give you a quick update on the major funds of the district. General fund ended the year with about $22 million in total assets. The majority of that was cash in the bank or invested, about 15. I'm sorry, I'm in the full audit. I'm on page 20 now. I'm sorry, you have actually the so we can talk pages. The remainder of the assets on the general fund were amounts owed to us by the state of Michigan and other grantor agencies at year end to the tune of about $6.2 million for August and September, or July and August state aid, and some grant reimbursements. Total liabilities of about $9.8 million. Most of that, or half of that, being amounts owed to teachers on their contracts that are paid over the months of July and August, along with the retirement, Social Security, and health benefits to go with that. Overall fund balance in the general fund ended at $12.2 million. You have, as a board, committed significant portions of that fund balance for project work and other items that are displayed in the notes of the financial statements. So the unassigned or available amount to be allocated in the general fund is about $3.3 million of that total fund balance. 3.9, almost $4 million remain in the 2017 capital projects fund balance to be spent. I think that's already all been allocated in fiscal year 23, although some of the projects that you're working on, you're still waiting on the equipment to arrive. So whether it all gets spent by June 30th is another story. We'll also point out on page 21, you'll see a column for the capital projects non-bonded fund. That is the sale of Copeland. So in this last fiscal year, the funds actually came through on that. So you'll see there's $1 million available, and I think you have already earmarked those dollars for capital projects as well. So they sit in their own fund for you to look at. In that far column, it says non-major governmental funds. That is the food service fund, the community services fund, and the student school activities fund. And the detail for that, for what makes up all those numbers is on page 75 of your big bound document. If we flip over to the statement of revenues and expenditures for the fund levels on pages 24 and 25 of the report. Looking at the general fund, this last year, total revenues just under $49.3 million. If you look up at the federal sources line above that, about $5.8 million. That number, as we look to 2023, will probably go down to about $1.5 million. So this was the big infusion of all the ESSER dollars, ESSERs 2 and 3 and 11T and 8 or 9 other programs. So you'll see a significant difference in that as you look at 2023. Also a reminder on the state source line, we had a significant foundation allowance increase in 21-22, another one here in 22-23. So you'll see that number, if you were to compare it with last year, is also up. It's pretty significant. Overall change in fund balance as you go down toward the bottom of the page, about $661,000 added to equity in the general fund. Looking at the 2017 capital projects fund column, right in the square middle of the page, you'll see that we used about just over $1 million on projects in fiscal year 20. Still have that $4 million to spend as we go. Budget to actual results, we look at page 28. So when you look at the general fund's budget, remember your process. You adopt a budget in June before your fiscal year starts. And at that point, we don't generally have a state aid number or student counts. So we make some assumptions. Then you do an amendment, usually around this time of the year, which is kind of your real budget in my mind. You've got student counts, you know where things are at, and you kind of put your real plan, your final plan in place. And then oftentimes in the spring, or as we get toward the tail end of the year end, you'll do another budget amendment just to shore up any expenditure areas that you know need to be a little closer. So kind of the real budget, and I think I've talked about this, Mr. Lundy, before. Your real budget is the one you do right now. It's kind of the one you live by. But looking at this, if you kind of look at the very bottom line, you'll see you had anticipated in the original budget to use about $653,000 in equity. Your final budget amendment shows you anticipating adding $729,000 in equity, and the actual add was about $661,000. So a budget variance of $67,000 and $50 million budget. Pretty good. Just a couple of other items. Maybe if we look at long-term debt. There. Pension plan has too many notes. Page 42. So overall, long-term debt of the district, the top of that note 8, you'll see the ending balance of just under $101 million. Bonded debt makes up $95 million of that. That's for all the various construction bond projects the taxpayers have voted in for the years. You pay off the last of those bonds in 2034. You have about $1.7 million liabilities under there that says compensated absences. So those are contract obligations to our negotiated union groups for unpaid sick and vacation days, things like that. So that's the other portion of the debt. You did pay back $9.9 million of bonded debt this last year, and you stayed out of this school bond loan fund. You paid that off last year, and this year we still have that same $1,000 just sitting there, $26 of accrued fees. Other than that, they don't have the single audit report today. I was just gonna just briefly talk about the totals on your federal grants. $7.9 million in total this year. That revenue is recognized in the general fund mainly, but then also the food service fund. And I remind you, the food service fund, we're back to normal in fiscal year 23. So there were huge federal reimbursements in the last couple of years due to COVID, everybody qualifying for a free lunch. Now we're back into the regular food service business. So we'll see the federal funds reimbursements fall dramatically there as we look at 2023. But of the $7.9 million, once again, $4.6 million is related to all of the education stabilization fund amounts. So overall audit, once again, very clean. We have one accounting standard coming forward into 2023, which will be challenging. We actually have, Sharon and I are both on the same committee at the state. We have a meeting tomorrow morning to discuss accounting for subscription-based software. So if you think about that, and the principals in the room, if you think about how many pieces of software you have around the district, any of those that may be of a duration of longer than a year have to be evaluated and possibly put on that statement in the front where we put everything on the full accrual basis, showing it as an asset and then amortizing it over its life. Hopefully everything's year to year, but I'm sure we will run into some items that aren't. We had a standard this year related to leases that came into play. It wasn't applicable to the district. We don't have anything that we're leasing that fell into that category. So that'll be a challenge for the finance department this next year to kind of ferret out all of those software items. So I would take any questions from the board.
I think I just those were praise to Sharon and her team for doing all that they do. I know it's a lot. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was challenging. A good portion of Sharon's staff turned over. It's been a couple of years in a row. We've had significant turnover, and to still get the audit done. You're actually the first audit on my schedule each summer. So we're here like 3 weeks after your fiscal year ends. That's remarkable to turn around all the work. Most audits happen mid to late August, all the way through the end of September. So much credit, kudos. Sharon's hair hasn't got any gray or anything either. So
You have a slide deck for 100%.
I do. I'll email that out. Yeah, I will email that. Yeah, we have put it on the website. Already. Those are the slide decks. Yeah, I'll share that. Any other questions? Sure. Thank you. Good spur without the slides.
All right, we have come to our first opportunity for public participation. During public comment, each speaker is allotted a maximum of 5 minutes for a total of 30 minutes unless otherwise notified. Each speaker will be asked to announce their name and district of residence and indicate if he, she, they represents any organization or agency. No person may speak more than once on the same subject during a single meeting. Those wishing to receive a personal response from the board or superintendent must complete a public comment form available at the meeting entrance or on our website. In addition, as presiding officer, I would like to remind everyone that public comments should pertain to Dexter Community School District matters and concerns related to the operation of the schools or to matters within the authority of the board. Those who wish to speak shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. Also, speakers addressing the board shall take into consideration rules of common courtesy. Speakers who make attacks of a personal nature and or do not abide by the rules of common courtesy will be reminded of such rules by the board president or presiding officer. Such individuals may be asked to leave the meeting if their behavior is disruptive or interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. Also, please understand that board members do not respond to public comments, but we will listen very carefully and will follow up as appropriate. If there is immediate need for clarification, we will do so after the speaker's allotted time. Is there anyone who would like to participate at this time or make a public comment? Okay, we'll move on to the administrative and board updates, starting with superintendent.
I want to start out, the high school did a district-wide or high school curriculum night, and I wanted to point out some of the things that are updated on the website. So when you look at the website, you go to schools and you click on the high school. You go to the academics page. You have on the academics page are all program options for middle or high school kids. And there's also drop downs in many ways. So, for example, on the side, videos, what's offered in each department, so our students presenting some quizzes. So we have options to try to highlight what are offered at the high school. In the curriculum night presentation, went through and set up the way this entire process is structured, and it actually leads to the scheduling process. Is parents from the 11th grade were invited, they were review, and then each of these programs was quickly unpacked, so that it wasn't a sale of one program or another, but there were follow-up opportunities. So the high school curriculum, so there's the explaining the block schedule, how credits work by graduation year, everything impacts Michigan American curriculum is, what the graduation requirements are at Dexter. And we can go through just overview of the high school, links to the course catalog and departments, what those videos are. And then we talk through virtual learning options and what vendors we use and the options we offer kids the opportunity to take individual courses, or we have kids that do all of the classes. And we contact the information. Dual enrollment, we highlighted there's an information meeting on dual enrollment on December 7th this week. Reminder went out today and talks about the difference in dual enrollment and the early middle college. The difference in dual enrollment are handful of courses you can take up to 10 courses in the high school student. They have to be classes that are done off by the school, and they're or the early middle college is a full program, so 63 credits, associate degree, special certification, or a technical certificate, and we actually provide transportation to the kids live in both worlds, in the high school and Washington State for 50 years. So they're really different, but we have an information link for all the parents that are interested in students on December 7th there. Then for IB, we have one tomorrow night to learn about IB and what the IB diploma is, or IB courses. We also have an AP information meeting tomorrow night to learn about AP courses. So we set this up so that there can be called alternative ed, quick overview, invitation. And then career and technical education that we're doing with us next week. So we presented and shared about that open house. We had a huge number of kids in the programs. Turnout. Early College Alliance, information items, unpack that. So everything was really logical. So, and it's all on the website. So we explained the programming along with next steps for scheduling. Start on them, and that by the link, we can very much have those requested. So that was the overview of curriculum night. Parent calendar survey, ready?
Yeah.
Suspense killing it. We know exactly what people want. 44%. To 47%. Very decisive. What we do know is that the majority do not want to go 2 weeks.
That's
But-
just like-
50-50 wrong. 7% do. So. That was, learned a lot in that process. So yeah. So we have. And really it was, what do you do with the information? You get this, you're like, all right, do what we do. So then the last thing I wanted to talk about is the budget revision. Just heard the audit report. Really get a chance to be on it a little bit here. The budget revision. Usually we do that in November. We're aiming for December 19th. Just things to take into consideration. We got the official budget. We just didn't build in all contracts that we settled. We built in an increase in minimum by 105, extra down by 30. So there's a swing there, but we didn't plan for a big increase, special ed fund and per people. So there's just December 19th.
And are we in? Second, we discussed.
Yes. Good.
Next week, yeah.
Griffin, can you get favorite motion?
Next up is the board president update. Don't have anything. I guess I just want to say this is our first meeting after the election. So congratulations to our trustees who will remain on the board. So congratulations. I am very thankful that we live in a community where people actually do want to run for school board, and there is a contested election, and it's not just people walking on. So that should be commended in our community, that there are people that care about the school board and what we do. So congratulations. Excited to work with you for a couple more years. We'll move on to our student representative.
Not the most comprehensive report, but I guess we have all of November to touch on. Fall sports finally ended with football. They went probably as next as ever gone. If anyone was at the last game, great game to watch. Real cold. Half the marching band instruments were frozen shut, but it was a good game. They played well, and nothing but proud for Dexter's team. Winter sports have started. I know that I think pretty much all of them have started. There's a request for some more divers on the boys' swim team. I put out that shameless plug. I'm not even on it, but they need more divers. They need more wrestlers.
We shut it down.
Oh,
We
you
shut
shut
it down for today was the last thing.
Oh.
Be a driver.
All right, so if anyone's gonna join diving by now, they're still looking for more wrestlers. If you want to join, I think basketball is pretty populated already. So all the winter sports are going full motion. On a school level, parent-teacher conferences, I mean, those are a while ago, but between now and that, those went off without a hitch. That was pretty well. And then next week, blood drive for the high school. So if you know any students that are eligible, it's a pretty important time to give blood. There's a big shortage. So make sure they are ready, drinking water if they try to donate, and encourage them to donate. It'll be sometime next week, I think, Wednesday.
And just thinking that while there's a game and out in Portage, Lily Whitty shattered in diving. That won't be so good. She.
Yes.
It just shattered.
And then she just got a medal at like Great Worlds. Yeah.
Junior World.
There's the-
Oh, there's the roll.
It was, I think there was on beginning, so. That was just really. That was
For how much money would you?
Oh,
I was looking done. That's really. That's really better.
Anyway, good year for all Dexter senior athletes and the best football player in the state. They're the best driver in the world. So good year for Dexter.
We'll move on to our consent items. We have a resignation and the budget report.
I move that the Board of Education approve the consent items in bulk.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent items in bulk. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. Consent items we can do in bulk. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. They are passed. All right, we'll move on to our discussion item. Which is the, starting off with the new course proposal.
We have Mr. Bruder here. Ms. Bruder, along with several teachers, so we're going in order.
Yeah, we have a slide deck. That's all right. We'll throw it up there and walk through some of the quotes.
Yeah, Griffin knows the green buttons. That one,
I don't use that.
you gotta mention, you could wish the last one too, we can shoot it that way.
Yeah, every direction.
We got to our junior.
I think I found possibly talk about that. That's outside of the. But I found it.
These are numbers for students. All right.
All right. Well, as Chris alluded to, this is the time of the year that we begin thinking and talking about the next school year. It's hard to believe. But as Chris shared, last week we had our curriculum night at Dexter High School. And tonight we come to you with 7 potential new courses for the Dexter Community Schools. It's very exciting this evening. We have courses ranging from middle school to high school, elective courses to AP courses. Career and technical education courses, as well as general ed courses tonight. So we have some wonderful teachers here that will be able to present and share. You've had an opportunity to review the course proposals in your packets. So they're going to give a quick summary and be available to answer any questions that you may have. As a reminder, all of these courses go in front of staff, go in front of adjacent buildings. Parents and community members have an opportunity to review, as well as many of our administrators facilitate feedback sessions with students. I know Mr. Koenig will be able to talk a little bit about those that occurred at Mill Creek just last week. So we are going to get started with our Mill Creek courses. So from Mill Creek are Ken Koenig and Beth Smith to talk to you a little bit about Mill Creek Makers.
All right, good evening. Thank you for taking time to consider our course proposal here. Mill Creek Makers is a STEAM-based makerspace class. We were very fortunate this year to bring on Beth Smith from formerly from Milan, who was there for 21 years, and I would say probably only taught toward the end of her time there a makerspace course or a STEAM-based makerspace course. And when we have staff that come in that have a passion, and we have a need for classes that help students develop problem-solving skills, as well as working with their hands and teamwork. Beth came to me and said, I would love to teach this class. So as you go through it, you'll notice it incorporates a whole bunch of different kind of materials, anywhere from 3D printers down to 12 button circuit boards to cardboards that will be using all sorts of school safe power tools, cordless drills, jigsaws, and cardboard pieces in order to create this makerspace class.
Thanks for considering this. Do you have any questions for me regarding the proposal?
It's an example of one of the projects that students would use.
Yeah, thank you. So in my previous position, I taught STEAM for 7 years. So we did things from tiny houses to food trucks to a maker fair where students, in preparation for the holiday season, they created something, and we did it as a fundraiser, but they created something and put it on display and for sale during parent teacher conferences. That helped to fund my workshop space. So I was able to purchase power tools and pretty much outfit an entire workshop area for students with that. We've done backyard games. We've done escape rooms. Pretty much I try and base it on the interests that the students have. So it's timely in the sense that if something is coming up in our learning or in the community and we see a problem, then we talk about that problem and then come up with some ideas for how we might address and create some solutions to those problems. So our food truck unit actually came about through our hybrid scenario that we had during COVID. I was only seeing students 2 days a week, and the other 3 days they were home. And we started talking about how many families weren't able to go to restaurants and were ordering food, delivered to their house, and people's habits changed with eating out. And so we started discussing, what would this look like during COVID? What do we see as an increase? What's increasing as a result of that? So we just from the scratch came up with a food truck unit. Students focused on international cuisine. They learned a little bit about the cuisine, created menus, created social media posts and t-shirts and business cards to promote their business. And then they made a scaled down model of this food truck that was complete with all of the different components that you would need for advertising. And then they presented that out to the class. So that would be one example of using something that was going on, currently, and taking that problem and trying to come up with a solution and create something fun. Why I think that this is so important is we have a shortage of skilled trade workers that will be in our future. And in my past experience, my STEAM classes brought in a different group of students that maybe weren't successful in other areas in the curriculum throughout the day, but they had the opportunity to come into my class and to work and create with their hands and to use safe tools that they maybe use at home. And we could do all that with the idea that we are solving some problems. And so we worked through the engineering design process to solve those problems. And as a result, they were able to strengthen their skills and be able to have student-driven lessons.
So a lot of students in previous school, or like the science, math people, the traditional support, I consider did they actually go back and help motivated or that science?
Yeah, so I used to teach a STEAM class, so I taught STEAM for 7 years and incorporated into that all students. At first, it was offered as an elective class, and then it was a required class for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So I had the ability to teach all students in my middle school, and it was a semester-long class for students. So they would come in and have that opportunity, like I said, to be able to showcase their strengths. And I'm not sure if I'm understanding, are you saying, did that increase their math and science skills?
Or
Say the last
maybe the liking of math and science. You said you get a different population. Church STEAM kids, actually.
Well, I guess maybe I said that incorrectly. So I have a different group of students that maybe were not successful in traditional classes that really thrived in the classroom with that ability to use the hands-on tools and to use their creativity and solve problems. So where they might have struggled in math and science, or maybe even struggled to sit still during class. In my class, they were up and moving around and creating and building and being creative. And so like if they had behavior problems maybe in other classes, they didn't really see that so much in my class because they were having that opportunity to get up, move, work with their hands.
I just have a quick practicality question, like the funding that's needed for the materials, where does that come from? And is that going to be easy for the teacher to access what she needs and replace what she needs over the year?
Yeah, so we'll be looking at the majority of that initial startup cost coming out of our budget. We've run the cost of the 3D printers and the specs of the 3D printers through our tech department so that we make sure the software that those run on match up the software that we have. After that, the consumable pieces of the elements, the element that's used in the 3D printers would just be a recurring cost that would come out of it.
I could also add that other than the consumables that like hot glue, the filament, as you spoke of, vinyl for 3D printing. Beside that, most of everything that I had in my classroom for students to build with was recycled materials. Most of it early on, it came from donations from families in the district. So I would just have bins in the office, bins in my classroom where students would bring in toilet paper rolls and a variety of different things that they would pick out of the recycle bin. And then after COVID, that became a little bit more difficult to gather. And so most of it came out of my recycle bin at that point. And to be honest, some of the projects that we were designing were the result of extra supplies that I had. And, all of a sudden, all right, we have all of these, these particular items, what are we going to do about it? And so students would brainstorm that way as well.
I think this sounds like a really awesome class. I was really pleased to see it as a proposed. I think it really fits right into what we've been talking about, especially hands-on or alternative ways to learn and to get kids interested in, maybe not just interested, but have them achieve it. Whereas maybe with sitting down math or science, they're not getting where they can be. I was really excited to see this.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing down the line in a few years how this correlates with social workers. Is it or do a little bit entry level for a few years, kids going to consortium for new trades, do you take this class series?
I would also add, just since you brought it up, in my old position, one of the things that I did with my students is we talked about STEAM related careers in skilled trades. So we did discuss the different curriculum options that you mentioned, Dr. Timmis, in regards to ECA and the consortium. And I did a presentation to the students and we talked about that. And then I assisted some of them with applying for ECA or exploring what was available to them at the consortium. Last year I had the opportunity to take about 19 male students and one female student with me to Howell. We were able to do a skilled trades expo and we were able to spend half of our time outside working. The kids were on bulldozers and sledgehammers and different things like that. And so they were exploring many skilled trades. And then we went inside and they learned about electrical apprenticeships and plumbing. And I'm hoping that I will still get an invite. I haven't yet talked to you about how that might fit since it's not yet a class, but it was all paid for and it was a wonderful opportunity. We were able to use the students' EVPs to select the students that would be best fit for that field trip. And it was those same students, as I mentioned, that really struggled behavior-wise in the classroom and struggled with focus in the regular classroom. It was those students that were thriving in that type of environment. Some of the students are in the robotics program. Absolutely, yeah. Again, I had, like I said, I had all of the students. So it was tied with the robotics program. In fact, at one point they were utilizing my room for that in the after school hours. But yes, a lot. I mean, I'd love to be able to go back and track some of these students again that struggled and see if they do end up at the consortium. My hope is that they will and that they will have successful careers somewhere related to STEAM or some type of a skilled trade.
All right, our next course is our Mandarin 1 course. You will notice here that the target population is 8th and 9th grades. So there's actually 2 course proposals in one. As you're likely aware, many of our languages in 8th grade, we also offer in 9th grade, so that we're able to give our 8th graders high school credit for a 1-year completion. So this proposal tonight is for a potential 8th grade Mandarin 1 as well as a 9th grade Mandarin 1 course. Earlier in the year, we did survey our students to see who might be interested in continuing Mandarin in 8th grade and potentially taking it on in 9th grade as a student. And there seemed to be enough interest to be in front of you this evening with a proposal, excuse me. So I'd like to welcome up Yolanda Lewitt and Emily Schweet, who are going to talk about Mandarin 1. And Ken Koenig, administrator, is here to answer any questions that you might have.
So before I start, let's be continue to Springer one, which is continuation of the previous.
It could be both. It could be both. Yeah. It's a new language offering, so any student could take it. But this is a unique year that there are students who have been with Yolanda in particular for the past 7 years. So there could be students that will take another year. As you will hear, the depth of knowledge that they'll go into at Mandarin 1 will be much greater than what they've previously taken. But the course will be set up to support students that previously had taken Mandarin as well as students that are new to Mandarin. So I'm going to jump off the mirror so that Yolanda can put up her slide deck.
Hello, testing. So good evening. I'm Yolanda Luo. I'm one of the 2 Chinese teachers here in Dexter. So I'm really excited to present Mandarin 1 course for the board today. And I would like to start with the questions you asked, because that's really important for my students and families. And many students started to learn Mandarin with me when they were in kindergarten. So I moved up with them. I grew up with them from K to 6th grade. And when they moved up to Mill Creek this year, they got a chance to take Spanish, Mandarin, or French. I still have many students stayed with me to continue to learn Chinese. So Mandarin 1 class for 8th grade is not a beginner class. We're going to continue to learn more Mandarin, to put all stuff we have learned together to help them to speak language, to communicate with others in Chinese. But for Mandarin for 9th grade, because those students, they never learned Chinese before, and they were in Spanish too, or they picked French for 1 year. So for them, that will be a beginner class. So I will start with them and cover all the fundamental necessary skills they need to learn in Chinese. So that's the question I want to answer now. So this way, Mandarin 1 for 8th grade, for my students who have many years background, we're going to have the book I proposed in the proposal. So that book, we're going to follow everything and put everything we have learned together. Like the foundation part, I already covered everything. So for that part, I can just take out. So 8th grade will get more time to learn more. And for 9th grade, I'm going to cover everything, like all the foundation part. So that's Mandarin 1, and I'm very excited. Mandarin will go to high school next year. So I'm so happy to answer any questions you have.
Real quick, on the numbers, how many students do we have taking Mandarin currently at the younger grades?
Okay, so I'm teaching the 3rd grade at Wiley. And last year I taught 1st graders and 2nd graders. And then that is the the world language program was cut off at elementary school. So, but fortunately, I can move up with my second graders students to Wiley. So now I have 218 students at Wiley. Yeah, 218. The third graders at Wiley. Yes.
Third grade class.
Yeah.
Have classes, right?
Yeah, 9 classes. 9 classes, and the total number of the students is 218.
How many seventh?
Right now, I'm teaching 6th grade at Creekside too. So all the 6th graders, they are learning Mandarin. So I have 9 classes, it's 250 students. And the 7th graders, I have 3 sessions, and in total will be around 70 students who take Chinese.
7.
Yes, 70. Actually, I was very upset. But I encouraged them last year when they asked me which language should we pick. I said, I encourage you to pick any language you want to learn, because that's the best time for you to learn any language.
I guess I have some curiosity if kids continue to take Chinese throughout high school. My understanding is that tonal languages are very difficult, and so I guess I'm wondering what sort of overall confidence kids could have at the end of high school if they continue throughout. Does that question make sense?
Yes.
As compared to some of the other languages we offer, what sort of what could we expect kids to achieve in terms of communication or reading or writing, or I don't even know how you would answer that question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So thanks.
That's a wonderful question. Actually,
Yes.
I prepared for a long time for someone to ask me this question. Okay, so language, we will talk about proficiency levels. And according to the Michigan World Language Benchmarks, they only require the students when they graduate from high school, their world language level will be NOVA high. And I heard many people will say Chinese language is the hardest language to learn. Is that true? It is true. Because the Foreign Language Institute, according to their report, they will say for the native English speakers, Chinese language is the level 4 language to learn. And as you can see, our district is offering Spanish and French. It's level 1 difficulty. I cannot say it's very easy for them to get it, but compared with Mandarin, it's totally different. But still, I want to show you this. So even Mandarin is not easy. It's the hardest language for native English speakers. But with 2 years learning, as you can see in the table I can show you right now, and for the level 1 students, if they can start in middle school or high school with around 150 hours learning, they can get NOVA Low or NOVA Medium. And for my current 7th grade students, I'm very confident they even can get NOVA High already. So it's qualified for Michigan World Language Benchmark already. So for Mandarin language, like you said, it's two-known language. So pronunciation is a big issue. But for middle school and high school students, it's not too late to start from the beginning. So if with level 1 and level 2, if we can offer Mandarin 1 and Mandarin 2, I believe those students can get the similar level like they can get in Spanish and French class. So did I answer your questions?
Yes, thank you. That was very helpful.
Yeah.
The number of hours that
is a novice high, which is required. Yeah. 4 years, 9th, 12th grade, what was that? Yeah, how many years are the novice?
Actually, for the novice high, if according to this table, I got from Ohio Education Department. I think it's very useful for local school to design their language programs. So if you want to get novice high, as you can see, level 2, some students can already get there. And for the listening and speaking, because Chinese characters are really hard, it will take Chinese native speakers like 6 years, the whole elementary school to learn Chinese characters. So I think it makes sense if students cannot do so well in reading and writing. Yeah. But for speaking and listening, novice high is okay, it's reachable, and for 2 years learning. Level 1 and level 2 together will be 300 hours. And I made this table. So I already started to plan next year's lesson. So that's for 8th grade. As far I learned, language will be elective class. So every day kids will have 45 minutes. And in total, they're going to have 180 days. And for 9th grade, they're going to have block class. So in total, they're going to have 90 blocks. So actually they have similar time, but like I said in the beginning, 8th grade will have more time to learn more. And that's the differentiation I should offer to them, because 8th grade, they already learned so much. Yeah, and also I would like to add something. And always say Chinese is very difficult. We mean that it's maybe the characters and the tones, but actually the grammar is very easy, right? Yeah, it's have the same structure as English, like subject, verb, object. So that is for this part. It says, oh yeah, that's just, they can compare the Chinese language with the English language, and they can find the pattern. And so, which is not that hard for the students. And also when the students master the tones, the 4 tones, and they can, that is, they can speak language, and just like many people say ma, 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 the 4 tones, and mean the different 4 things. But once they master the patterns, the tones, they can understand. They can understand the foundations and the fundamentals, the characteristics of language. And so when they learn more, and I think the language will become easier and easier for them. Yeah, so I really appreciate our district that is offered the Mandarin when they were, at a very young age, like kindergartner. Yeah, and now my 3rd graders, and they already master tones. So I don't think that is the Mandarin will be very hard for the 7th graders. Maybe it will be a little more harder for the new 9th graders, right? Yeah, because your 8th graders, they still can. Yeah.
So for junior next year, enroll in that.
Yes. 9th grade, that class in high school is prepared for beginners. So I will start over with everything, make sure they can get all the necessary skills. Yes. Go back to
I'm sorry.
The hours grid.
the hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me find it.
So
90 hours of block, or 90 blocks is.
It's around 150 hours.
So a junior cannot take this. She's starting, well, they wouldn't be proficient based on this. To get with the knowledge. So you start in 9th grade, these would be. Based on 120 hours. 240.
If you're exposed to multiple languages, you're better off learning. I know.
So we heard that funds come from the building budgets, and I guess that's where my concern with the budget is. you can recognize it, it's a little higher, and now you're also proposing to 2 different buildings. How is that gonna work? Like, are the buildings gonna contribute half?
So we do put money aside for startup courses like this. So that would come from the district. So while it is a sizable purchase, it's a one-time purchase for textbooks. And those textbooks would be housed at the media centers, and then we'd be able to utilize them for all the students. So we would work with the language teachers. That's an estimate at the moment based on the number of courses we believe we might be offering next year. If that number increases or decreases as we go to schedule students, we may come back to the board with revision for more or less funds. But we do put money aside in our instructional budget for things like this, where it's a one-time cost.
I just think you're short. I think the budget's super high. I got questions that, but if you have 7 students, continue to take it, I think it's great. You get 270, and you give them the option, still have the number, continue 7. You think like 30 or continue to.
This is only for integrated one. So if it's
Is our starter?
Mandarin 2, 10.
a year later, it would actually run with 9 kids.
Correct.
Like, so what we do with French and Spanish is the students that are 8th grade that are taking French or Spanish are taking basically the same credit as the 9th grade. And when they move to high school, they'll be in French or Spanish as 9th graders with sophomores, juniors, seniors, etc. This could work.
You explained the digital seats. Actually, 2 questions. I'm not sure if the ladies are, but digital seats explain that. And the cost is high for any other person seen as well. Not, but we haven't had a link. Is this the normal price of link? Yeah, I'm trying to use some.
Yeah, it's a good question. So put it in perspective, thinking about a core curricular program for a grade level could be anywhere from $60,000 to $120,000. Like you're looking to purchase like mathematics for a whole grade level or for K-5. So at $10,000, yes, this is the highest number that's come across your table tonight. But relatively speaking, they've been very fiscally responsible.
Like Steam,
Well, I tell you what, once you love that STEAM class, we'll come back for more money next year.
So with the average, but go back to the average cost.
On the
Textbooks a little for high school, I don't know. Mr. Fisher, do you remember our last textbook purchase, like 100 something a book?
Yes, they usually about, at least math textbooks, about 100 to 120 for a book with an online license if you like that.
These are the ones.
The reality is that that's why we have one of the reserves, to do things like this. And bring in a significant cost. We do that regularly, now build that up. But it's worked over decades.
So the ideal goal is to be one, next year is to have 2. After that, maybe 3. So if you have a child who's taking 6th grade already, they probably exchange to China.
Yeah, we'd like to at least initiate and start the conversation and the possibility. And that's why tonight we come in front of you with Mandarin 1. We're hoping and planning for it to be a smashing success, and next year we'll be here for Mandarin 2. So
Do something. Basically. And that was actually, I think, the decision was made before I started, my first year here.
They could take it. Not here, but we'll get a online program.
Yeah, I think it's a small number. And then we started the language, we did world cultures. Starting to figure out 6th grade, instead of shuffle people around. And we had, at one point, we were talking French, Spanish, teacher. And we had trouble finding any elementary certified language teachers at all. And I interviewed Yolanda in Beijing. And we said this partnership, this was an opportunity to offer some of the elementaries and now Peter Station.
So would we still be continuing Mandarin in the younger grades? Do we have enough staffing for that?
Right now we have third grade. Just third.
Yeah, third grade Mandarin.
In sixth grade.
And six.
Yeah.
Also, they don't-
What's going in band?
It's like every two, like it's 2 years Spanish, 1 year.
So sixth graders are moving to middle school next year. They'll have an opportunity to take, the groups. And then the third graders. will come.
Yeah, that was my worry, because I know last year we were talking about staffing of early elementary, foreign languages, and just the staffing and then the sustainability. Because right now we've got this great test case of kids that we've brought up through that are, will be naturally inclined to take these courses, which I think is fantastic. I mean, I think this is a great opportunity. And to your point about German, I think it's great if we have like the interest and we have, the entire third grade classes moving up, and, that's something that we can sustain. But then it's the staffing and making sure that we didn't like sell these kids a promise of learning how to speak Mandarin, and this is not anywhere against you at all, but just making sure that we have the staffing that will be able to sustain that. I know I'm thinking way down the line, but.
Well, that was why we came to you last year with the proposal that we did with K2. I know that was unpopular last year, but it was because of this reason right here. We need to protect these ladies and their time so that they're available to teach 8th and 9th grade language next year. Had we not, there's no way we could offer language from kindergarten all the way through 9th grade next year. So this year has felt different, and both Yolanda and Emily have been extremely flexible in supporting the district in a number of ways, but it was in preparation for this upcoming year. And so we didn't want to pull the rug out from all of our students that we provided language for 7 years and say, and there's no future. So that's why we have shifted from the elementary to that secondary model to protect the language opportunities.
Success continue.
It's hard to answer that question at that time. It depends how many sections are offered at the high school and how many sections are offered at Mill Creek. If there are multiple sections, that's a pretty fair assessment. If there's one section at the high school or one section at Mill Creek, it's very possible within the schedule that we can make it work with the 2 staff that we have. But part of the reason we're here in front of you tonight is to get potentially this course approved, so we can start scheduling students in 9th and 8th grade to really figure out what we can offer to the rest of the district as well.
That was 6th grade.
Correct. Correct.
Got the interest. flowing
Correct.
still.
Correct. And so what we're trying to figure out is what is the pattern at 3rd grade or 4th grade in terms of, is it every other year, every 3rd year, every 4th year? What does that look like that we can sustainably staff that, as well as continue to pique interest in students so that there are students that are interested in taking the language.
Moving closer. These over the year, the next piece. How many years will they?
Unrelated question. Related question. What's the person stand? Number of students.
Spanish are most.
You might not know the. No, I can speak to the high school schedule from last year. Spanish is our most subscribed language class. French is about half of the sections of Spanish. So there's usually about 8 sections of Spanish 2 at the high school. And French is looking at about 4 sections of Spanish 2. And then it drops French 3 drops usually to 1, maybe 2 in a good year. And then 4 and IB Spanish are combined. At the middle school, we offer at least 6 quarters worth of Spanish elective, and then at least 2 full sections of Spanish for high school credit. That's Spanish. And about the same with French.
Just diversify the languages as they get beyond 6th grade. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, oh, yeah. I guess
I just wanna mention, I guess I feel, I struggle a little bit with feeling like the language program at Dexter is fractionated as it is, you know, let's take it first semester on, semester off. I feel like there's no flow and there's no, I mean, just to be clear, I appreciate everything everyone does, and I know we're all doing the best we can with scheduling. My worry is that without, I feel like there's been a really strong base for the kids who are taking Mandarin. And so my worry is that as new cohorts come in, there may not be the same attention is the wrong word, but sort of excitement about it if it's not the thing that everyone's doing, which is what has been the case. And so I don't know what that looks like a couple years from now. I agree that this cohort clearly is, you know, interested and engaged. I don't know, I guess I would love to see, this is a bigger topic, but more thought about how we do language and whether we do it differently. I mean, I think that, you know, having these kindergartners learn it is obviously so much better than, you know, even the high school kids. You know, my kids are in Spanish and I know the trouble they're having with hearing Spanish, which is just much easier, you know, so I guess, I don't know, I have concerns generally about thinking about how we put resources towards language in our district. So I can just feel like I need to throw that out there. I want kids to feel successful and I want to feel like when they, I mean, what if we have kids who are doing the IB program who are taking Mandarin? Are they going to be able to test in Mandarin, for example? You know, that sort of thing. I guess I just want to be thoughtful that, yeah, and will they be ready for that? So I guess I just want to be thoughtful about bringing in, and this is what, like, I love languages. I also, like, I love the idea of offering this, but I just want to make sure we're thinking about the picture that is already in place here and making sure that students don't find out in junior year that they're not ready to test if they want to do IDB and they're taking Mandarin, for example. I just want to be sort of more, I guess, in the thinking about all.
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing that out.
I think it's a great consideration. It's something we can absolutely come back and speak more on that. I took 4 years of French at high school. I never took the AP test. I didn't feel the need to. I was very satisfied taking my 4 years. I went to U of M. I was able to test into a future year. So I guess what deems success, right?
Yeah.
How are we measuring success? Is it the number of kids that take an AP test? Is it the kids that pass? You know, is it enjoyment? Is it language acquisition? How are we measuring success of our high schoolers in terms of language?
Well, isn't that the question?
Sure, absolutely.
All
Absolutely. All right, so moving on, we have some high school courses. All right, Megan Ford's going to come up. She'll be up for a little bit. She has 3 courses in front of you this evening.
I am Megan Ford, and one of the courses that we're putting forward is the Hospitality and Tourism Management through the South and Western Washtenaw Consortium. It'll be a CTE program. It falls on my background in hospitality and owning a restaurant for the past 10 years. I have been working with Brian Rowe, who spoke, I don't know, a few meetings ago, explaining the CTE programs. And this one is a great opportunity to bring a course to Dexter. Majority of them are housed in Saline. Exercise management is in Chelsea. This one would be an opportunity to bring the class here and to piggyback off of existing relationships with industry professionals that are in our community here in Dexter, also in Ann Arbor and Saline. It'll give kids a chance to work and see real world problem solving skills, communication, adaptation, and taking core lessons that really get taught in a lot of different courses, academic courses, and see how they can translate over into real world opportunities. It'll also give the kids a chance to earn an industry accepted professional certification. So they can leave here after this program and be able to go into the workforce, or they can go on to a community college. Henry Ford and Macomb Community College both offer hospitality and tourism management programs, as well as places like Eastern, Michigan State, Ferris, Central. A lot of times they're housed under the umbrella of business, so they don't necessarily jump right out at you when you start looking at them, but they are there. This is gonna be a one-year course and it'll be geared towards our juniors and seniors. I'm sorry,
You'll get a certificate out.
they'll have the opportunity to test for that, yes.
After all the credits.
We do have set up articulation agreements for all of our executive classes. We'll be setting this, set up articulation agreements, Washington, Ferris State. And this will be offered to students from any of the partners. It'll give an opportunity to really link with community, and we have plenty of opportunities for hospitality. Tourism.
I have to say that this is another one that I was really excited to see. Because in my high school, we offered this. We had a working restaurant. High school. And it was very cool. So, I was excited to see.
We have joked that the house was Airbnb.
Bed and breakfast, that's right.
There we go.
Really partially. You have other.
Yeah, that was.
No, that was different. That was the White House.
So-
So- I'll kidding aside, so back to the question of demand, we have an estimation of student aid. So that it's available to the community, you know, an idea of demand.
So as far as the specific number, no, I don't have the specific number yet. On the first, I had an opportunity to go to Saline High School and present to parents and interested students at their open house. I haven't received a number on how many attended that event. I did receive interest from Dexter students that were there specifically, as well as some from Manchester, Milan, and Lincoln.
In part of the process before coming to you this evening, Megan's been working with Dr. Ryan Rowe to go through the steps to make sure that this course would meet criteria as a CTE course. And one of the first steps of this process is putting together an advisory board. This advisory board met earlier this year, and there are a lot of local names and faces that you know and you recognize that there's a lot of trust and a lot of support for this program. And that advisory board thought that this was an excellent idea for the kids of Dexter as well as Southwest Michigan, so the SWWC, excuse me. So there is definitely a lot of adult support and there's a lot of student interest in this possibility.
So we all participate in the consortium. The way that works, all of the students who are in courses, every district has a percentage amount of slots based on. And we have an anticipated number of slots per slot. And then we take all of the costs with teachers and materials. We just received a $500 grant from the state. And we split the cost in our percentage. For example, building trades is offered on our campus right now. The building trades teacher is actually a Chelsea employee who is the oversight is by Dr. Rowe and Saline, and they're working here. So we all split it. And it all goes into the big formulas for all. What works out best is when you can offer in your own location, because then you have seats we can put. There's a huge advantage. When we look, we've had GrabX. For example, we pay shares at 40% or 60% of, we pay 40% of the cost of GrabX. So, but it's obvious. So it's split most. So the materials are present. Except for outside this class, like the building trades, we're building our own little sheds.
Are there any additional questions about hospitality and tourism management?
I'm assuming you already have relationships set up.
I do.
Yes, I actually have a very close friend that's she's a CFO of the Anna Bird. And Megan knows her, so it's all together. So she's a former grad and she actually told me about this program about 3 months ago. Super excited. So, yeah, not only do you have connections, you also have fellow alumni.
And
Yes.
we may have seen them for.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. So that's why I was like sort of serving that up for you. Nice.
All right.
The next two courses that I have are both electives. The first one is a sales and marketing course. That would be geared towards our 9th and 12th graders, obviously as an elective. Currently, we seem to be lacking in availability of electives for our high school students that can fit and accommodate students with art schedules, with art, the choir and band, as well as AP and IB schedules. It just eliminates a lot of options when they have to try to fill holes. This gives a chance to allow students to be face-to-face in the classroom. I'm working with Ryan to develop the curriculum for this particular one. We do have to piggyback on the community relationships that I have with Red Brick. There are also a lot of store and businesses that I have relationships with. And I think it'd be really fun to not focus on, sitting at a desk being spoken to, but really get kids out and engaging and working with the Compass that is in Dexter, at the high school, with Cricket Chamberlain and Dennis Stockwell with the content and the art and polling students and seeing what they're looking for in a store. If you've been to the Saline High School and have seen their store, it's pretty impressive. And I think that Dexter could follow suit with that and offer a lot of different merchandise that would fall into that criteria and give students a chance to work on things like color theory and the relationships between that and marketing and seeing what drives the consumer. But again, also going back to those fundamentals of problem solving and communicating and working together in collaboration.
We're in a unique situation with the graphics programs. We can print our own merchandise, including print media. We have this printer that prints like these. We can do all kinds of. We just need to round out the last end.
Okay. The last one is outdoor recreation management. This one I am in the process of learning about myself. I think it sounds really interesting. I have met with both Melanie Nowak and Craig McCullough and have brainstormed a lot about partnering with community education, the athletic department and B&G, and seeing what that could look like in terms of taking our students, collaborating with the community of Dexter, seeing what needs the community has itself, not only just for the high school, but that can be open to the residents of Dexter. We were spitballing and throwing out ideas of cross-country tracks cross-country tracks to see how that could fit on the open 90 acres that are back by the high school and just see where we could take the students again out of the classroom, give them a true elective where they can learn, get excited, work together, and hopefully spark some sort of interest that would allow them to carry that forward into either both with the sales and marketing class and the outdoor recreation class into a CTE programming or into a dual enrollment program, and then carry that on further outside of high school.
Outdoor recreation is very exciting, and it is a CTE course. So in the future, it would be a possibility to have a conversation about taking this course and making it into a CTE level course. At this time, we're not proposing that. It's going to be an elective at Dexter High School. It's a lot to take on one CTE course, let alone two in the same calendar year. We would never ask that of Megan. And we really want to make sure that we do the first course really well before we start rolling this one out.
This would give us an opportunity. We own 360 acres, lots of outdoor recreation spaces. Set up some unique opportunities for kids. If we look at what we offer in community ed, we do offer outdoor, recreation for community, but our kids can run. We have mechanisms for the structure, teach them design. So it can go everywhere from individual to turf management. We really did. If you look at our fields, we maintain unique spaces. And so it could be a great career interest that they find they really want to know. why do you have certain? Why, how do you make this? Make it all work, I can't put this on it. How do you schedule events? How do you organize? You build budgets.
Outdoor recreation encompasses things like being a ranger, being outside and honoring the land and knowing where in terms of harvesting trees. Megan talked about potentially creating a cross-country trail in the woods. Having a circus or a fair is also under outdoor recreation. So there's a lot of possibility here and thinking about how students in Dexter could really create opportunities for themselves and for the community.
Thank you. Part of what I was thinking of the outdoor recreation was like not being mentioned. Oh, okay, but then it is very broad and.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibility and we're excited to see where students' interests lie and where we might be able to help facilitate those learning experiences.
We used to have a park, horse trail with most of this.
Yeah. I used to play in those pine trees, Dick. I knew them well. At base, they used to let us wander. Yeah.
Yes. Like they're.
Kayak business, sure to figure out.
Well, that was my.
Or a paddleboard.
Like,
Paddleboard.
Yeah.
is-
They help partners. Fish in the water.
So I have two questions. Last. The only thing I'm concerned with is that we're still open the program. So we can offer something.
Gonna be built by the time it's taught. What we have, in order to do the career tech, we have several groups to do. First, you have to get a special certification.
This won't be a CT.
This is being this 1950. So, maybe a year or two. They have to have your advisory boards built in your situation agreements, state approvals, et cetera, but they do all the approvals, the final approval that's passed by the actual school board. And we offer to kids. Right. So that's why we're here in December, November, so we're ready by September. Doesn't make sense to do all the work, put it, the rest of it together.
Yes, I'm a little concerned about adding three new courses, one first year to one person. It's just a lot to develop a course. And I'd rather see, good successful two versus. So, whatever that's.
We're trying to balance out of the schedule.
Right.
So we did hire today. Today.
It's only like, right.
I know.
As well. So it's like-
We did hire someone to help shadow.
We just have so many courses that we are adding here. I am a little. Loss of students, diluting the population, having too many choices. Not having enough students interested in each course and having.
So like this is, I haven't opportunities for a certain population. Get it tracked.
Lots of good. As long as. There's no interest.
And that's what my daughter was in a situation where she loves art, she's an artist, she's been studying, so that's how it fit in my schedule, so she wasn't able to left. So it is a challenge.
It's not just IB, it's as well.
Yeah.
I know that recently, like the Well, if you have live standing, will be at least allows you to take some electives, but if you're a band, I'm. So at least it gets rid of the tier hour, but you sit down with, tier and you're saying, oh, what language can I take? The Ivy class is when they offer now where you're ability to like, there's more choice. So I think it's actually better to get that or electives. But that kind of just gets more options that you might have something like now. Now if it's like, oh, we only offer this for electives, I have to take something in my 2 hour, but I don't need options, just more options we have. Like, yeah, like so too.
We don't. It's good, once they don't get a response.
I mean, I just. Not to speak, I mean, this is a global question about just the offerings about how, if you have all these new courses and teachers are building up the courses, and then next year you don't have kids who are offering it, it's just, it's.
Sometimes they have a problem with it. Part of the population.
What's it talking?
I just provide my husband's experience that's been first where they're offering classes and when you build a curriculum, then 2 years later, they're not doing it anymore. So. I guess that's part of the maybe
Still know it's gonna be popular.
right.
It's really everywhere. You should go to kind of.
I'm sorry, no, I know that's fine.
Going to do a test survey, see what problem is, like you.
Well, we're gonna start scheduling soon, so we could actually do a real survey all the time. The kids do vote their feet by interest of the year. Sometimes it turns into that high school teachers here who have seen it. If they know who's teaching something, sometimes they take it anyways, whether they like the subject. or not. Sometimes it doesn't matter who's teaching it. It's interesting to see how kids select. It does have a what some kids may choose for the next couple of years, like change, and then 3 or 4 years later, all of a sudden, other group realize. Well, actually, with the scheduling process this year, it should be next year. We had a technical hiccup last year.
I was just gonna comment that we don't have a lot of like business focused classes. And that is kind of been the deficiency, I would say, for us. So I see that at least 2 of the 3 really lend itself that kind of model in their budget. And it's been something to do.
So all 3. Well, Tuesday idea was they want to do it all.
Exactly.
Versus sales. Everybody does the same. But also teachers are saying.
It's definitely a different niche.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And I love variety.
Thank you.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, and we have 2 more courses that will be presented tonight by our math department chair, Ryan Fisher.
Hello.
Thanks for waiting, Ryan. You are
It's good to be here. All right, we are the math department would like to propose 2 courses this year. First of which is computer science. A and B for first and second semester. It'll be a 1-year course. We are hopeful to be very flexible with this course. This course is going to be based off of the AP Computer Science course. We're hopeful that we'll be able to design it in such a way that we can allow kids an opportunity to take it not only take the AP exam, but also meet requirements for those students that want the label of an AP course for it, that they can earn that along the way. We're also long-term going to explore whether or not we can use this course in conjunction with our AP Computer Science Principles course to provide another option for our IB students in the world of, in the lens of IB computer science down the line. We think that the courses have enough content overlap that once we have our teachers trained, they can compare the two courses and hopefully provide a pathway for students who would like to take that exam, if that's a choice they would like to as well. Or like I said, or take the AP route like we do with many of our courses at the high school. So we'd like to, as you can see in the presentation, we'd like to label the course as just computer science with the hope that it will be a little bit more accessible and not off-putting to a population of students that see the two letters in front of some of our courses and just think difficulty is going to be too high. I don't really want to explore this elective, but also give opportunity for students that are looking for that external assessment and opportunity so they'll be prepared for that. So that's computer science. The other course we're proposing to offer, we're calling Math Mentoring. It's proposed by one of our new staff members, Allison Dinesco, at her previous district in East Lansing. They ran a similar course where high schoolers were collaborated with teachers in the elementary buildings to collaborate with to build high school and elementary peer relationships and help support students that are struggling in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade levels in mathematics, to partner with students at the high school to mentor them and hopefully bring them along and build success with those kids. So we'd like to, in this course, Allison's proposal is to spend part of her time with our students actually at the high school, learning techniques for questioning and interacting with younger students in mathematics, and then spend the other half of her week, more or less, given our work block schedule rotation, actually getting into classrooms and partnering with students and working with them. So
the second one really said what nicely, considering working to
yes,
elementary education.
exactly.
And we have, where there are some variable funding options. That this they actually fill what that we have pipelines.
Is there going, how will the students, the high school students chosen to participate?
Well, I mean, be a combination of student interest, and we in the course proposal, we had a teacher recommendation for those students that are interested in to get, I guess, approval from we're looking for students that are interested in working with young kids and are going to be independent enough to be able to work with young kids. So not just go escape the high school.
Right.
Show up. You're a teacher. Yes, that's part of that's yes, it ain't easy. It is not, but Allison's fantastic. It'll be great.
So I have two questions, one on this one. I guess my first impression when I saw this, the math mentoring name, my fear is that kids will initially see this in, or if they do take it, they have it on their transcript. It looks like they are the ones who are being mentored.
Okay.
So I'm just worried about like the branding of that. And we all know like it doesn't have like an explanation on the transcript. So, and I know that's something that kids think about.
Yeah, that's right. I proposed to Allison, maybe we call them math buddies, but I don't know if that was.
It's not bad. It's like there's reading buddies. So I don't.
I have a same question.
Right, because I know that we had a course
Or
last
anime.
year.
Okay, we can go back to the drawing
Exactly.
board. We can go back to the drawing board of the name. Yeah, that's fine.
Like, I'm all like, we read this. All right, next. Yes. And then my other question is, for the AP, for the computer science AP, we're not putting AP in front of it, but then the prereq is the AP class.
Yeah, we're working on it too.
Okay.
Yes,
Cool,
that's
thank you.
also in the works.
Thank you.
Yes,
All right.
that's It's just a computer science class. So this course is computer science principles. We currently offer is more like a computer usage and problem solving using computers. Not as much coding. This is explicitly coding using Java as a language.
Yeah, because I'm just wondering about it. My own person. But our daughter is coding, which isn't offered by high school right now. She really wants. She loves this, but I don't.
No.
She had to get her.
So the reason we stated any prereq of any computer course is the curriculum we're looking to offer is the same that we're for AP Computer Science Principles, which is through code.org. And their recommendation was a intro computer course of some sort. So that was the main reason why we put on.
And then I also read that some of the parents had suggested a different program.
Oh, yeah, okay, so that's a different computer language, yes, that would be great. Fortunately, if we're gearing for the AP exam specifically, the AP exam tests exclusively on Java. So maybe that's something we could explore to add as a future course, whether that's integrated into just math course that we offer, or we look at an alternate path for that. But Python, well, wonderful in the mathematical world, really has no bearing on the AP exam specifically, which is what the course is, one of the main drivers for this.
Kids test into this. Kids are not computer. A lot of people outside programs in summertime. A lot, but nothing to do. Yeah, it's coding. The robotics team replacing. Could they test into it somehow? Yeah. I'm just worried about they're not going to take prerequisites. What's it going to take?
Yeah.
And that's my first question.
So would you like to ask your second one before I respond to the first?
Yeah. I don't know, but they get not quite sure.
I think the only certificate would be the AP exam. I don't know of any multiple.
I don't know what the requirements are for Java, but it's telling you that there are people with the employment pieces. Yeah.
Jobs. Good language.
I guess can you repeat the first question that I had on the line now? I've lost it.
Prerequisites.
Prereqs, oh, sorry. I don't want to commit to anything. I don't see why that couldn't be something we could look to develop. As I know that we just haven't had many computer offerings at the high school in recent history. So, and we have a lot of interest.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I don't want to commit the staff that are excited about being part of the program to even more things before we've even started the program itself. But I don't see why we could look at that as one of the first things.
Well, I guess when we offer the course, we have the prerequisites, you could say, or teacher recommended. Like maybe they took like a summer course or something.
That seems very reasonable.
Couple thoughts. On my son did. And my daughter on the other class where he actually did too. And he did it for other classes too. She was in class 10. She was their favorite times of the day. Yeah, so great idea. I cannot. My son is better at teaching my daughter. To be honest, that was the primary motivation. So I think that sounds great. The name. Better. gonna transfer it, maybe it
Well,
does.
we can go back to the drawing.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I'm waiting for that one. And then I was very excited. I got a degree in science first year. And I went into that specific with my high school faculty. Offered programming classes. And then I didn't think about computers. I fell in love with coding in high school. Did it in college. But the thing I liked, like to the Python Java, like I liked having multiple classes and maybe think about like alternating semesters and teaching multiple languages throughout a semester. You know, for the basic concepts are the same. You can learn how to code, you can switch languages. So teach the foundation for Java, and then you don't need a big chunk to learn Python. Or to learn another programming languages. The concepts, it's almost, you know, it's syntax, you know, teach programming language. So I think that would be a great offering, and the prereq thing too, but that it came to my mind, my son would do programming. Like, they're pretty much great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they take the class and not, so.
Looking ahead, I know our biggest challenge with just offering computer science courses in the first place is finding staff members that are capable of teaching our computer science courses. It's I don't know if you are aware, but it's difficult to prize someone out of industries that already is a computer science person to come into public education. So we're excited. We have a couple people on staff that are looking forward to jumping into the deep end with computer science with this computer science course. But we'll have to be very, I think, deliberate when we look to expand. Welcome. With you.
All right, those are all. So this evening, we put 7 courses in front of you. We know that you all have some time to think on those. We'll continue updating the proposals with your notes, as well as there have been some parent and community sections scheduled since they were printed for you until today. So we'll update all of those so that on our action agenda in 2 weeks, we'll have the opportunity to vote on these courses. That's all the new ones. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. The next thing, executive. Yeah, so also in front of you tonight is the executive summary and recommendation. This evening you heard one proposed CTE course, but we, in doing this work, realized that we had an opportunity to add the courses that we are currently offering in CTE to our comprehensive course catalog. And we're also asking, as we have with some of our digital providers, that future courses that are approved by local districts, as well as the SWWC, be added to the Dexter comprehensive catalog. So if a new course is proposed and approved through Chelsea for our students in consortium, that it would be available and approved. Yeah, I'm trying to explain the word. So earlier we have to Chelsea do this over here.
No, currently we don't have these courses for our kids to attend. We get audited in the end, we have to show that they were. So what we did with our online courses, we just did it in our course. That's listed as the state catalog. So this is the same kind of concept, except we wanted to, we're asking to add to our courses anything that is offered by the CTE. That's approved by the board. We've been adding courses, like, for example, as a consortium, Celine added modern web development, Chelsea added cybersecurity, Celine added entrepreneurship, business accounting, and Chelsea added exercise sciences. And there's robotics. Robotics and Chelsea. So courses have been added. What we've been working as a county and as a consortium is we've been talking, what do we need, where do we need it? Who can find staff that are certified to do it? They have the background, what those resources offer, which courses maintain. We're trying to just be smart amongst districts. No one district is going to fill these courses. But each district has 5 kids per course. So our issue is more procedural and making sure our records match. And if we want to offer them to our kids, if we're trying to local district, we need to have it somewhere on our document saying what is the anything to move workers that identifies. So it's moving the further, also has to understand. That they hurt that guy, that goes for, there's a long process. We need to make sure our workers.
Your status, Jake.
Yes, we have a request to change middle school competitive cheer to a bunch of sports that are called through community yet. Been running for years. Lots of kids get engaged in groups of other opportunities. The cost is really the head coach salary of and about $1,000 a day.
My only question is, how do these sports usually get approved, and if other sports want to do that, would they have the same opportunity? Okay. Primarily.
Yes, we offer almost all of these, and then only. I would all.
But at the middle school level, there's a lot of it's not represented, so that's what I wonder. Baseball or softball side, if they wanted, would we?
Did offer some.
Yeah, that's true.
I would be hesitant to offer too many sports in terms of sport middle school. We offer some. So that's why it has. If we get sports, we'll want to kind of like applications. There are some. For example, let's say baseball. We offer baseball. It's in 8th grade. Then you got a 9th grade. Now you're. Volleyball, basketball, etc. So many, we get 160, 180 people. It is like all of them. It's the greatest experience. Middle school have middle schools. They have this. We want to be really conscious of middle school, better cheer. It really is. I mean, I think there's nowhere else to cheer. Yeah. Either you do it at the school.
Next is the water machine, is good.
This is catching up. When we built Beacon Elementary, we analyzed the city that we've been using the water. They charge us a lot of money to have water, about $192,000. We get the water off of our own property. No matter what, we have these, then we agree to it. No, but I had to say it. I knew it said nothing. It needed to be said.
Yeah.
But this is for the, oh, yeah. Oh, amazing. We had our attorneys make some changes.
We're just formalizing what we've done.
Right. Move on to our action items. The first action item is to accept the 2021-2022 audit.
I move the Board of Education accept the 2021 audit.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would just add that we received the, we heard about it earlier in the meeting. If we had an opportunity to review and ask questions. We had some discussion.
You did a very nice job. And Dr. Grant, job. And our auditors, did a very good job.
First boil is probably.
All right, to accept this, we will do a roll call. Vote. Mr. Oliver. Mr. Arnold. Aye. Aye. Yes. Angus. Aye. Mr. Lundy.
Yes.
Aye.
Accepted. The next item on our action list is to schedule a Title IX training workshop. Board needs to complete the Title IX training workshop as mandated by law. We scheduled this training for January 30th. The board will need to act to change that previously scheduled regular meeting workshop.
I move that the Board of Education change the January 30th, 2023 7 p.m. meeting to a workshop to complete Title IX training with the location to be determined or as said here.
Second, I second the motion. It's moved. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I understand what your discussion is. Sometimes we get workshops. So, right. So we're reading in lieu of the meeting. Any other discussion?
Maybe true law.
I'm serious. I'm serious. January 30th.
Same hours. as the first meetings.
We'll put this to a roll call. Vote. Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Bruder. Aye. Bruder. Aye. Angus. Aye. Mr. Lundy.
Yes.
Mr. Barrow. Aye. Mr. All right, the last item for action is to correct policy number, and it's November 7th, 2022, meeting the Board of Education approved for second reading and final approval as advised. Revision to the Title IX sexual harassment policy, also this numbered as 2260 instead of 2266 in the packets of the first reading on 10/24/22, and then the final approval. The board needs to correct the policy number at this time. I move the Board of Education correct policy Title IX sexual harassment. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Bruder. Aye. Bruder. Aye. Angus. Aye. Mr. Lundy.
Yes.
Sarah. Aye. Carolina. It's been passed. All right, so we come to our second opportunity for public participation. Same rules as during the first. If nobody's there, Nobody spoke the first one, so I open it up just in case we're running into the hall. All right. But I mean.
You should do the full in-depth,
Okay, good. We'll move on to board comments.
Yeah, I can't. I just want to see something about. It's clear, but it's critical. It's part of it. It takes a while. We know that we're gonna issue. I think that we should. Lower level reviews, you know, invested some money in some supporting that. That's what shows, so I think. You know, Ryan's working.
We are working. We did a science and reading training right before March 12th or 13th or whatever it was. We did some training and then with EAB, the training of staff.
And I just get that.
Just want to.
We want to make sure that we keep creating more time.
At the lower level, that's the only kind of the biggest viewpoint. I think we have. Just to, I guess, fix later on. Considerations. Fix it early. And just continue to go on. Especially.
I would like to say I've enjoyed the parent teacher conferences this year at the school level. I wasn't the person. But it was great to be in person. And fun. Obviously, 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes, but it's just. Thank you.
We have informational items in our packets. We don't have a closed session. So with that, I shall adjourn the meeting.